We also want to do more prospecting this field season and get a 30-ton bulk samples.
Talking graphite here with E-Power Resources, and James, you brought some interesting field samples along.
Yeah, we have. We've been out on the property doing our summer fieldwork program. We have a couple of objectives for the program. The first one was to get a small bulk sample, a little over a ton, from 4 different target areas on the property. And we've sent that to our partner company, Volt Carbon Technologies, for them to turn it into a graphite concentrate of roughly 98%. And then that concentrate, we'll get it tested for grade, of course, as well as flake size distribution. That graphite will then be ready to deliver to manufacturers who are waiting for the product. So what we're doing is, this first 1-ton bulk sample to get some processed graphite to be able to give it to manufacturers who want to test it out and see if it's right for their production process. Other objective of the program is prospecting part of the property, especially parts we've not yet visited. And our northern area of the property is one of those areas that we've been really excited about getting out to look at the ground. And this is the first time we've ever done it. So we had a prospecting program there. They were using a beep mat, which enables a user, someone pulls a sled and walks basically in a grid pattern over where we know there to be conductive bodies in the ground. When they get to a point where there's conductivity within a meter of the surface, then they can just dig where the beep mat beeps. And then you can expose, if it's indeed, graphite that's causing that beep, you can expose some graphite outcrop and take some samples. So we just did a program in the north where we got 32 grab samples, and 20 of those came in over 7% graphite, and 13 of those came in over 10% graphite. So again, as we see in the south of the property, there are indications of quite a lot of graphite at and near the surface of the property. And later on this summer, the third objective of the program is to take a much larger bulk sample. And we're still waiting on the permit, even though everything's been filled in and done, they have it. But when the permit's granted, the plan is to go out and get a 30-ton bulk sample so that we can process, or we can have that ore stockpiled, and we'll know which target area that ore came from. So it'll come from multiple target areas, and we'll segregate it and know the characteristics of that particular target location. So we'll have a stockpile of graphitic ore that we can, on request, from a manufacturer who wants to test it, turn that into a graphite concentrate and send it to them. That is something that we're excited about having, and gives us the opportunity to perhaps get some end users addicted to the material.
Before we talk about those bulk samples, James, I just want to give a bit of context for our audience. When we talk about gold, for example, it's more or less common knowledge, okay, 1 gram per ton, that's the economic rate. Now, how does that compare to graphite? Because apart from the grade, you also have the flake size. So is there a number that you can point to it saying, okay, 10% is kind of the cutoff grade, or how does it work in your project?
Globally, the typical graphite mine will produce at a grade of somewhere between 2% and 7% graphite. So in the Tetapisca region, we haven't done enough drilling to, actually grade a resource yet. But in the Tetapisca area, there are known resources with grades, in excess of 12 and even in excess of 15% graphite. So this is grade-wise the richest known graphite district in all North America.
Okay, and now coming back to the topic of bulk samples, you mentioned that you want to put some in storage, and you have quite a few requests from various partners in the industry along the supply chain of EV batteries and so on. So what needs to happen kind of for the next step with these samples then being provided? Or is it just like they do an RFP, request for proposal, you put your bulk sample forward and you either get selected or not? Or how does that work in the industry?
Thus far, the way it's going, there are a couple who've been waiting quite a while for us to get them some material. It's been kind of informal. Do you have some? This is how many tons we need per year. They're going to have a hard time finding that because, there's only one company producing any graphite at all in North America. So they tell us what they're looking for and normally give us, a typical flake size they're looking for, very general specs, and we can separate the kind of flake size they're looking for and send it to them. So, like one we've been talking with, for example, started out with wanting 500 grams of something and then asked for, can we get 30 kilos instead? They're willing to pay for that as well. So, it's not really going to, make E-Power a profitable mining company, but it's a way to perhaps get back a little bit of the money we've spent on exploration. That also shows commitment rather than just randomly receiving a sample and hoping they'll test it. It's instead someone who's, put some dollars behind a request for some graphite.
And James, perhaps interesting to ask there regarding the flake sizing that these potential customers are demanding. Are they demanding the upper end of the flake sizing, which is oftentimes a more expensive graphite and therefore the harder graphite to find? Or are they also fine with smaller flake sizes because they're going to spheronize and micronize it for anode material anyways?
Interesting you ask that. Non-EV battery users are generally looking for higher flake size than EV battery users. It's kind of surprised me that anode production focused companies are generally looking for that 150 mesh material. I guess you'd call it fine flake graphite. So if you compare flake and amorphous, flake has the character of, a pile of frisbees comprising a rock, and amorphous is more like that oily black powder. Fine flake would be kind of like the worst of the best. The other users actually are looking for bigger flake material, like those who want to make an expandable graphite foil or something like that. If you've ever seen like the space shuttle, it's black on the outside, and that's expandable graphite. So they make a foil out of graphite, and they're generally looking for very large flakes. Yeah, so the defense applications and some of the industrial applications are looking for the much higher flake size than the battery manufacturers.
Thank you, James, for the insights on flake sizing. Very interesting to see that you are seeing a differentiation in demand. Perhaps you can quickly outline for us what we should expect from E-Power Resources heading into the rest of the summer and maybe even the fall.
We'll very shortly have some preliminary results about grade and flake size distribution from the 1 ton plus that we've sent to Volt Carbon for processing. Then we can start getting that into the hands of manufacturers. I guess the announcements there will depend on whether or not they like the material, the industrial end users who want to have a look at it. If they like that material, there could be some announcements around that. We also want to do more prospecting this field season and get a 30-ton bulk sample so that we have some stockpiled ore available to produce samples for industrial users who want to have a look at it. And then from these known target areas with some graphite on surface, with a man-portable drill while we're out there, drill some short holes in it to perhaps get an in-house resource estimate on a couple of those target areas. So if we know we have good material from, say target area number 5, drill down 5 or 6 meters, over a significant length, you've at least got a certain amount of tonnage in your head rather than on 43-101. It's useful information to have when talking to industry.
And for that, obviously, you need budget. So how are we with the cash burn rate, James? Are we going to see another financing later this year?
The exploration program really is covered. If you remember, we did a deal with Volt Carbon Technologies for $680,000 of expenditures this calendar year, and we're working on that now. We just raised a small flow-through raise of $100,000, which we can either use this year or next year.
And James, regarding that financing, if an investor at home wants to participate, where should they reach out?
They can reach out to me at info@e-powerresources.com or call us. And you can find all this information on our website as well. We're happy to have people reach out to us, and we'll answer everybody who does. We will at some point soon do a hard dollar financing. We don't really need it to do the field work we've got going on this year, but we will need it for corporate expenses.
Okay, yeah, we'll post all the details down below. Exciting times, and we look forward to the lab results from those grab samples.
All right, well, thanks very much.